Good afternoon. Welcome to my home. I'm Gina Davis, and I am an education program specialist with the Maryland Department of Labor. With me today, I have two wonderful instructional intake and assessment specialists from the College of Southern Maryland, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves in a moment. What you'll notice today is that we have a chat box, and in that chat box, in the to line, it'll default to all panelists. So if you're communicating with us today, please go to that drop-down menu and do all panelists and attendees. So before we get started, if everyone can go ahead in the chat box and introduce themselves and tell us where you're joining us from, whether you're here in Maryland or somewhere else. We'd love to see where you're joining us from. West Virginia. I'm seeing some repeat names from this morning. Good morning, or afternoon now. I don't want to repeat. Hi, Lindsay. Wheaton. Okay, awesome. Warwick, Garrett College. So a lot of our fellow team here in Maryland. So good morning. Gosh, I keep saying that. Good afternoon. So what I'm going to do while you're going ahead and putting your name and where you're from in the chat box, I'm going to put a poll on the screen here so we can see what your role is specifically in your program. So when you have a moment, go ahead and click that for me. Oh, I meant to do IAS for this one. My bad. So we have a number of leadership positions. Good morning from Baltimore as well. Hi, Judy. Okay, so I'm going to share the results with you all. So we have a good mix here, some ABE instructors and program administrators. So that's wonderful. You're in the right place. So today what we're going to be talking about is the intake and assessment process that specifically Frazer and Monica have been very willing to share their experience about how things have changed with our wonderful inception of COVID changes. I'm just going to leave it at a positive, on a positive note here. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Frazer and Monica. If anyone has any issues throughout the presentation, feel free to shoot me a chat message directly, and I'm more than happy to help. So thank you, Monica and Frazer. Looking forward to this.
All right, thank you, Gina. And welcome again to everyone who's joining us this afternoon. My name is Monica Grove, and I'm intake and assessment specialist in Charles County at our La Plata location.
And my name is Frazer Nelson, and I'm intake and assessment specialist on the Prince Frederick and Town campus locations.
All right, and we'd like to once again welcome you guys. We want to just share with you our experience, what we came up with as a intake and assessment process, meeting the challenges of being online, and hopefully there's something that will be helpful to you that maybe you can use, or feel free to share with us what you've been going through. All right, so go ahead, Frazer.
Okay, Frazer Nelson. Well, we like to start with it. My experience with that was right there, but we like to do a little bit of a fun fact because it's going to be kind of interactive with you guys today. We're going to talk a little and have you interact with us just a little bit to try to make this process as fun as possible, because that's what we intend to do when we incorporate our students in our program. My fun fact is about maybe in 2011, State Farm had a 50 million pound weight loss challenge, and it was held in Washington, D.C. And my brother's a State Farm agent, and the host for that, the State Farm was the host, the MC was Steve Harvey, and one of the persons in the VIP tent was Michael Strahan. I had the opportunity to have a conversation with him. That was prior to the year that they won the Super Bowl. At that experience, Michael Strahan shared with me that they were going to win the Super Bowl. Of course, I told him about being a Colt fan. I told him he was crazy, but they did go and went on and did that. And I met Patty LaBelle at that experience as well.
All right, and my fun fact is I've been in Del Ed for a while, but when I was in my younger life, I played volleyball, and I was living in London at the time, or living in England at the time, and we had something to do in London. And we're sitting there in McDonald's just hanging out like teenage girls do. And in comes this guy who's trying to hide his face. And he's, he at that time was wearing, earrings in both ears. That was kind of new. And we knew him. And as soon as he walked out, we realized it was George Michael coming into McDonald's to get a hamburger. So it was kind of like a little fun thing. So we just wanted to share some fun facts. Hope you like them. Okay, so our objective today, what we learned about accepting the new normal, right? And getting to that process. The importance of staff collaboration and our assessment process. We want to just talk about what we came up with. And then in the appendix are going to be some forms that we have that we want to share with you.
Okay, right now we said we're going to be interactive. We're going to allow you to be interactive. I told you I met Patty LaBelle. She talked about a new attitude. We want to hear about your new attitude. So we're going to ask you to do this poll for us real quick about accepting your new attitude. My colleague is going to.
Okay. All right. So go ahead there. At the top, it says that you can respond through your text, or you can do it through your computer. And we just want a couple of words to describe your greatest challenges accepting the new normal with intake and assessment. Is it, were you nervous? Were you just frustrated? Just challenging overall? Yep, that's a good word. Distant.
Yes, distant. Yeah.
Definitely.
Adapting.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Challenging. I see that in the chat. Challenging.
Yes, for sure.
Unsure. Ooh.
A lot of unsureness. Yes.
Stagnant. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hopeful.
Hopeful. Right, because you need that hope to be able to do what you got to do.
Distant, convoluted. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Just check the responses, and I'm sure you can find yourself in there somewhere.
Difficult to know how to communicate.
Yeah.
So flexible.
Yes.
Uncertain.
Of course, challenging.
Looking for those silver linings.
Mm-hmm.
Concerned. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Nervous and accepting.
Okay. Okay.
All right, some good ones. So a lot of people experience that distance and disconnectedness. And that's the biggest focus of what we're dealing with, right? How do we stay connected to those students? We got into this business because we love interacting with people. We love to be able to see the growth of our students, be able to look at their faces and feel their energy and watch that energy grow and watch their skills grow. And so to be feeling distant and disconnected is very difficult for us as service providers.
Grow.
Okay, I'm gonna go back here. Okay, so first of all, what we've learned, okay? The first thing we had to learn, we can't hold our breath waiting for things to return to our previous protocol. And for a while, it felt like, well, this will take a minute and it'll get fine. It'll be okay. Okay. But quickly realized that ship has sailed. We are not going back to the way it used to be. And even when things get smoother and vaccines come out, we have all this new information that we're going to have to work with now. New way of doing things.
Okay, we took a page from that great play Hamilton. We wanted to talk less and smile more because we had to learn to communicate differently. We wanted to shorten our message and check for understanding more often. We paused a little bit more. We didn't rush the message, allow people to think. We didn't just listen to speak. We gave the right responses to questions because it took so much time for them to, if they're on that orientation with us and they're going to ask the question, we want to make sure in the time we have, we respond properly. And the main thing was we set the course. We set up the intentions of the meeting. We let them know they would be disseminated a great deal of information, but we would definitely talk them through it.
Mm-hmm. All right. And the other thing that we had to realize is that we may not retain every student. We will do our best to do it, right? The digital environment is not going to work for everyone, but we did not want to take that lightly. We wanted to make sure that we understood why it's not going to work. Did we do everything that we possibly could to make the connection? Do we know why it didn't work, and have we thought creatively about making adjustments so that it can work for as many people as possible?
And now the most important part was staff collaboration. Well, the collaboration started with Monica and myself. Although we've known each other and worked on separate campuses, separate sites, we had to learn to work together. And Monica quickly became my sister from another mister, because what happened was I zoomed in one morning with her and I saw her husband leave for work. I saw her daughter leave for work. I saw her son come home from hockey practice at noon, and I saw her husband bring dinner home that same day. So we were constantly on Zooms, constantly checking our egos at the door, constantly changing the program to see what could we do to make it better, and how we just were going to incorporate all this with our students and for our staff. And then we had to turn around and bring that collaboration to our ISs and MISs so they can understand the new process. That, you know, it's difficult letting go sometimes. We want to stick to the old guard, but we realized with the synchronous world we were living in, we had to make changes, and we had to parlay those changes to our colleagues. And great deal of time, Monica and I knew we were on the same page, but we had to task ourselves with bringing others to that same page with us so we could work cohesively as a unit. We had open dialogue with key staff. We met constantly. We set up individual meetings, and we just tweaked everything we could when we had to. We asked you to consider having weekly meetings. At CSM, we meet every Mondays as administrative team. We meet Wednesdays as administrative team. And then once our summer program started, we meet with a group of teachers on Thursday, the ESL teachers on Thursdays, and the ABE teachers ESL teachers on Wednesdays, and the ABE teachers on Thursday, to make sure everyone is incorporated in the process. And to show you how fluid this has been for us, we want to play you a little message from our MIS and give you their perspective.
Hi, we are the MIS team, Laurie and Denny. And as a team, we met the challenge of working in a COVID world by establishing a common process and committing to it. The College of Southern Maryland is spread out over multiple locations and sites, and the MIS works closely with the intake specialists to ensure we document every student. And now that everything is pretty much paperless, it is so important to share.
We communicate using Office 365 forms in SharePoint. By using this format, we ensure accurate information from orientation to enrollment. We collaborate with a common Excel spreadsheet to update student class assignments. E-test results are shared with us electronically and kept in a digital format in SharePoint. Instructors access their student rosters through a shared folder set up with student contact information, test results, and attendance logs. Instructors only have access to their own class information. However, key staff can view every class.
This works well as everything is online and the information provided helps us to keep the LACES database up to date and accurate.
This is what works for us here at the College of Southern Maryland.
All right, we thought it was important to add a little note there from our MIS team, because that buy-in piece is really so important. The fluidity, it wouldn't be near as fluid if they weren't a part of what was happening and were an integral part as to was happening on a day-to-day basis. Okay.
Now we're just going to discuss with you our flow chart for our intake assessment process.
Okay, so as we developed this, we were had to make several changes as to how we connected with the student. So everybody on our team, no matter who gets a phone call, an email, anything. So we streamlined it so phone calls usually will come to us as intake and assessment specialists, the email. but the college also has other opportunities for students to get immediate help or for students to reach out and ask questions. So we also have that information coming through. So all of our staff members know to direct students to our adult ed page so that we can get the accurate information of their name, their phone number, their email, just some basic demographic information about them coming to us for services. So that has worked out quite well. And it takes commitment to that. And it was a real commitment that everyone say the same thing so that we don't miss students, okay? The next part is we have to adapt our.
And before Monica go on to that, we want to say, and Monica and I do our orientation. This is what we do. We feed off of each other. So we're not interrupting, we feed off each other because we do our orientations together. I do want to stress that one of the main things to make that process possible, the College of Southern Maryland does a wonderful job of having our program on the forefront of everything. And that adult ed website is very, very accessible to each and every person that's interested in our program. Monica.
All right, so to register for virtual orientation, okay? The virtual orientation allows them to come in, just like it says, virtually. We talk about give an overview of the program. It lasts maybe about 30 minutes or so. And at the end of the orientation, we break out into a breakout room because we use Zoom. And we talk to the student. We make sure that we set up a testing appointment with them. So when they leave us in that virtual orientation, they know that next step and they know what's going to happen. All right. They get forms to complete by email, and they're digital forms that have to do with to help us know what kind of computer they're using, so that we know how we have to set up the test regarding e-testing. And they'll get from us the LACES form to be able to, fill out those demographic information. And then they'll also get from us any other form regarding permission for release. Okay. From there, we go to whether or not that student has decided to take a remote test or in-person test. So at our college, we're blessed to be able to still have some in-person testing appointments that we can do. And it's very strict on behavior, very strict on safety protection, how we do that, okay? And limited in how many people can be in the room. So usually we will do in-person and remote testing on those same days, and we'll do remote tests as well throughout the week. So we set those appointments, and then we will, from there, place students in class, or if they qualify for a particular program, we'll place them there, and then they complete their registration after that. Frazer, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, the main thing is that we can also, while we're doing the on-site assessments, we also do remote assessments as well. So we try to incorporate as much as possible in doing that process.
All right, so we have, we do e-test, remote take classes, e-testing remotely. Somebody asked the questions, well, which remote tests do we do? And someone was asking about money to buy equipment, and we're going to reach back and talk about that in a few minutes, okay? Let me just check here. It's another question. Do we do continuous enrollment? Yes, we are. We have an enrollment schedule. We have a orientation schedule. We have an enrollment schedule. So we do manage enrollment system. We have 4 entry points per year. The students who come in, and we do those enrollments throughout and do those orientations before each one. So we're constantly working.
Someone asked about a team, Monica. Yes, the team basically is Monica and myself, and also our asses both are fluent in Spanish, which is the dominant language for us, our second language, and they also assist us as well, especially in the English as a second language population.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay.
The virtual orientation key points that we try to cover. Who presents? And this is what happens when we do an orientation, virtual orientation, both our asses are there, and we have one or the two of our NEDP advisors. That's the team that sit down that encourages the students and disseminate the information. Students participate from multiple counties and sites, wherever, each county, who's ever interested in the program are on. So we don't do individual counties, we just have orientations. Those orientations are usually done on a Thursday afternoon at 3:30 to encapsulate that population. And then we turn around and we do another one on Friday mornings, because you have the morning, evenings, we want to make sure we give everyone an opportunity. How do students sign up? Students receive a registration link through email. So after they go to the Adult Ed website and give us the information, we send them that link so they can join our orientation for that Zoom. And they're done through Zoom.
Okay.
And here's what I invite look like to the students. I'll let you take a look at that. When it happened, we let them know when it's going to happen, how to register, and they receive the confirmation, and then they join our Zoom.
Right. So this is important, we found, because we want to get our students initiated to working online as quickly as we can. So from the beginning of the process, we want them to understand that there's going to be information you need to send forward, and it's going to be information that you need to send back, to us. And so we found that this kind of helps to get that ball rolling and helping them to understand how to communicate with us through the internet.
And another key point here is that Adult Ed website that is monitored by Monica and myself, and we pride ourselves on giving a 48-hour turnaround process for that. We want the students to hear from a person, touch that site. We want them to hear from us within a 48-hour process.
Someone's asking, is the Zoom invitation link provided in additional languages? We don't change that or do it on our end. We just make the message, but the students have the ability to change that message. We use Office 365 as well when we're communicating with our students, so they have that ability. The other thing is when we are using our forms, we use the forms app on Office 365. And so then we are able to change the language into several different languages during our communication with the student, if need be. If they need to fill out a form, they speak. We recently had a Vietnamese group of students join classes. And so we were able to change the form that they need to fill out to Vietnamese and be able to communicate with them in that way. So it's been really helpful. Frazer, some other questions regarding CASAS testing. They want to know how many proctors do we use? And Frazer and I are the main two that do the testing. We are in process of getting our former students, our former instructional assistants that used to help, yes, getting them up to speed so they can start helping with post-testing and things like that. And we have trained our IS, and they are able to help out with proctoring as needed. Okay. How many students do you serve? Well, that question right now, as far as ESL and ABE GED students, I think we're up to 400 or so total, around there. When we are doing CASAS testing or ECASAS testing, we have to be able to follow those guidelines and rules on how many people we can test at a time. But we do a combination of both ABE, GED. How many students do you test at one time? It depends. There's other factors involved. What kind of computer do they have? There's certain computers that don't do well with group testing. So we'll do a one-on-one test with them. We also will have worked it out with the teachers, where when it's time to post-test several students, we can go into their classroom and pull those students into a break room or break rooms and test those. So it all depends on how many we have to test. Where we can test up to 5 at a time, but there's many factors involved with how many. So, and then also how many hours, days is your testing? We set up appointments with students. We do a remote testing. When we do in-person testing, we will set up from 9:30 to about 1 o'clock, 1:30. We usually try to be out the campus by 2 o'clock. That's how what's been set up for in-person testing. And for remote testing, we try to set a schedule where on Tuesdays we would do ESL, and then other days we would spread it out. It just kind of didn't work out that way to be so firm with the schedule, but we keep it within our hours. We know how much time we will need for people to test, and we do our schedules accordingly throughout the week. And what happens with testing if the student only has a phone? We cannot test e-test over the computer with a phone. So those students have the opportunity to come into the campus. We have 3 different locations that they can come into to test, and we have to see them in person. And that's the same as with low-level ESL. We prefer for them to come in person if we can. The Zoom invitation link provided in, oh yeah, I already did that, additional languages. Yeah. So I think that answered the questions I saw.
Yeah, and I do want to add that we do not do Zoom orientations, virtual orientations for the ESL population. They're contacted, and we either ourselves about our ISs, because I said Spanish is the dominant language. If not, we contact them. We either set up remote assessments or we bring them to campus to incorporate them in the process.
Right. Okay, so we wanted to show you just a little bit about what our students see when we do a virtual orientation. It's our welcome page to them, where we set up what's going to happen for the day. We want to let them know what technology they will need to have, right? And it's just, we can't get around it. Technology is something that we have to have in this environment. So we make sure they know that they need a good email, something that we can get in contact with them, that they know how to access. Wherever they are, they need stable internet access. Students that have smartphones can Zoom into their class and attend their class that way, but we do let them know that to do the digital platforms as best as possible, it's best to have some kind of a desktop, laptop, or tablet. And then primarily is to make sure that we have communication. So they have to have a good phone number and open messaging so that we can be able to talk.
I did see the question, Monica, do we create the emails for the student? We encourage them to do that because we want them to be able to incorporate themselves in the class. And we want them to understand that it will be part of the process, but if need be, we do offer assistance in doing that, yes.
Right, and so remember when students first contact us, they are contacting us through our adult ed page. And there it asks the question for a phone number and email. And so we start that process right from the beginning of emailing back and forth so that they get used to that. So, okay. So we included a little blurb about Zoom etiquette because, as you know, we're meeting with students and students weren't used to having this. They weren't used to having everything in their background being heard or you being able to see things, they weren't used to that. So we just wanted to give them a few tips during orientation to remind them what this is like and what we're going to see on our side. And what will help them be the most successful. They're always surprised when we say the microphone picks up everything and the camera picks up everything behind you. So, and we respect our students greatly. So we definitely, if there's something happening or something we hear that we think that's part of their privacy and they might not want us to be, we'll notify. We'll say, hey, you know, this, you might want to let people around you know that you're in a class, you're on Zoom, and it's picking up what they're saying. And they've all been very good about that and very appreciative of it. Let's see, someone says mute if that particular student is not speaking or sharing. Oh yeah, I guess there's the person is saying put a mute them. The definite good tip, quiet location place. Yes, yes, definitely. Yes. And during the orientation, we do tell them if you are participating in your class, number 3, please be prepared to communicate. It's part of being in a classroom environment is to be able to answer your instructor if they ask a question and communicate in the discussion. If they don't want to turn on their video, fine. That's up to you. But we need you to be able to communicate because that's what it means to be in class.
Okay, then we commend them. The first thing we do, we want to get into their feelings about coming back to the situation. So we commend them on taking the first step, and we let them know we realize that you may have some feelings about returning, some different feelings about it. So we try to address that.
Exactly. When we first did the orientation, we put in suggestions. We had, some things. We had a activity, and we quickly found out the students are not trying to talk to us like that when they first come to the Zoom. They just want to get information. So we said, let's leave a quiet slide. Let's mention that we acknowledge that they have feelings, that there's some nervousness, that there's some whatever, and allow them to know that we understand that. So that's what this is, the iteration it became.
Okay, but then we pose just some questions to them, hypothetical questions that they might have concern. We say, you say to yourself, I don't know if I can do this. Well, the first thing we point out that anyone living in this world over the last several months are much stronger than they know or than they knew. And that's all of us on the Zoom. It's all everyone in the world right now. And then we let them know you're not alone. You're surrounded by a community of learners. As you look through the trees there, through the distance, you see the CSM emblem, and we utilize this picture to show that there is light there. You look through the branches, we're gonna look through the haze, we're gonna look through the pandemic, and there's people out there that are gonna assist you. We talk about the Department of Labor here, we talk about the college, we talk about all the entities that they have at their disposal that they're not even aware of, that's available to them. And by taking this step, all these things are going to come to bear. By them investing in us, we're going to be vested in them. And as part of the College Southern Maryland family, because we push the family end of this, and we talk about how we're going to celebrate their achievements, how we're going to continue to encourage them. We just ask for them to be open participants in their own, take ownership of their education in the process. And even part of the next question, I don't know if I have time. Well, we just look at that as roadblocks to their success. And we let them know you can find that anywhere. Not enough time, procrastination, fear of failure, lack of support from family or friends, not enough money. We talk about how very minimal cost it is for this program, and not believing in yourselves. We just tell them that's just roadblocks that you're placing in front of yourself, but allow us to help you work through those.
Yes. All right. And then the last part of that is that we put up a visual to show that these things, that barriers that come up, we don't want them to be stop signs for you. We want you to see them as a way that we can create a detour around them and encourage students to please communicate. Please let us know what's happening. And so we feel like that these are effective reminders to let them know that they can always reach out to us, they can always communicate, and always let us know how we can work out barriers that they face. So question, do you provide any support for students who cannot afford a computer? And glad you say.
Yes, we can chime out. The College of Southern Maryland provide either laptop or all-in-one computers to each and every student that's enrolled in our program.
Yes, as long as they stay active, they can use that computer. And it's a fairly easy process for them to go and get it. And they come home and they get it, and then they'll call us if they're confused about how to use it. We'll work it out with them and get them in class. And so we're very, very fortunate that the college has been able to support us in that way.
And not only will we call them, our IT team from the college will contact them and help them set it up in their home. So the process is wonderful. We couldn't ask for more.
Exactly. And we're appreciative of it because it starts from the very beginning. They start with learning how to maneuver through this time. They start getting connected with the college and realizing there's more than just us out there to help them. And so that we can encourage them to keep going.
Okay, so now you've listened to us for a minute. We're going to ask you to take the chat for us real quick. Throw in some responses for us. How are you assessing? Are you doing remote, in person, both? How often? So use your chat fingers right now to let us know what's going on. Okay, remote, in person, okay.
That's good. In person, okay.
In person, okay.
And so the folks that are doing in person, so that's just strictly in person, I guess.
Oh, somebody both, few both, good. Assessing both, but does not have much. Okay.
Face to face, yeah.
You got to count in person, okay.
And we're being affected, you know, post Thanksgiving. There was some PD testing things that got shut down and things like that. So they're working with us to see if we can, you know, get our students back in there.
Right. Because we're in the process now, submitting our winter schedule, and we'll see how that comes back to us as well.
So I see someone saying assess was scheduled nonstop. Yes, it can feel like nonstop, you know. We put as much of our boundaries in there as possible to say, okay, this is when we absolutely are not testing.
Okay. Thank you for those responses.
Right, and someone was saying their corrections is currently shut down.
Okay.
We were dealing with that as well, and recently, within the last month, we were able to work out a situation with one of the detention centers in Calvert County, I believe, and where because they had equipment there that they were doing GED testing already. They had a room already set up and they were very eager to get us back in there working with their students. So we were able to set up a Zoom environment to be able to test and to be able to work with those students in a class.
Yeah, and I must say that process went extremely smooth. We just opened up the Zoom that morning and tested as many students as possible to get them going. And then we came back on a different day with the other steps. We did the locator for the reading one day, came out, did the locator for the math, and the process went extremely well.
Face-to-face needed.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, Melanie.
Yeah, it's challenging. It's this time is just so challenging right now working with our circumstances we have. And you know, we've been really pushed to be as creative as we possibly can become to do the best that we can. That's all we can do, is the best that we can.
But what we wanted to invoke from what you're doing right now to see everybody's just meeting the challenge in one way or another, and it is challenging for us all. So we're all in the same boat, and we're all trying to make it happen.
Max says no more than 8. Yeah, we have about our in-person face-to-face room, no more than 8 people in one location. Frazer, I think you might have like a 7-room or something.
7-room location, yes.
Yeah. So, and yes, from the very beginning, we submitted a plan to the college to say this is our plan for safety. So we're gloved, we're masked. They provide wipes in the class for us to wipe down everything.
Yes.
And it's like constant. We're just very vigilant. And one of our forms, it actually includes some of those COVID questions before they even come in advance. So we try really hard because we want to be able to continue having that process.
And upon entering campus, they're done. Temp checks are done by the security team upon them entering the campus before they even enter our building. A temp check is done on everyone. Our assessment schedule, as you can see, remote test is done by appointment. We also remote test during in-person sessions. In-person assessment schedules for each campus is pre-approved each quarter. Rotating in-person assessment schedules done weekly, the month before classes begin. And post-testing is done through breakout rooms in our classes or remotely, but the breakout room sessions have worked wonders when we trying to do them and doing them remote assessments.
Right. And so,
sorry.
for those who do Zoom, that's a part of the Zoom package, was to create breakout rooms.
Create breakout rooms. And our teachers love it, and they understand that we may just take away a little bit of time, but we get those students post-tested.
All right, so ESL enrollment. So like Frazer mentioned earlier, we do not do a separate orientation for ESL students, just because we're dealing with multiple languages, and it's best for us to work with them individually. Anyone who doesn't have much English and needs someone to be able to interpret for them, we do have folks on camp or on our staff who are able to do that. And we're really excited. I mentioned earlier about we have Vietnamese students that just came on. And so our coordinator made a contact with someone who was working in the Vietnamese population in the area. And so we have someone who's on staff now who speaks Vietnamese. And as those students are coming in, she's helping us out with that. So that's been really exciting to do. Very eager students. Okay. We prefer to do in-person testing with ESL students when possible, but we do a fair amount of remote testing with those students. And we would just work through getting them to use the computer. One thing we do and emphasize with those who are helping us proctor is, if you cannot solve that problem within a few minutes,
yes,
then that appointment needs to be rescheduled, or somebody needs to come on campus or something. That we don't want to have people sitting there while we're trying to problem solve and getting them anxious, and then they can't test right and all that stuff. So we have to impress that, because we're helpers. We want to be able to help people to get to this place, but we have to be aware of the environment that it's creating. All right. Incorporate our team members trained to interpret when we need it, and we set those clear boundaries. Okay.
And I do want to say, I saw Heather's comment that the most ESL students prefer the in-person, and you're right, Heather, I concur. Most of them, they prefer the face-to-face on-site or in-person assessments.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it all depends. Do you use the provisional test for those who can't get to face-to-face and aren't able to remote test? So we did try that provisional reading test, but we felt like it created more work than it did just to set up an appointment, and then because we have to still go back and test that person. I've offered it to 1 or 2 people since then, and they're like, no, it's okay, we'll just come in for an appointment. So we don't really use it as much after we tried it in the beginning, because it's another layer, another step. I see where the benefit is of trying to help a student just to get on board. But usually we just go ahead and set up the testing date, because we're going to need it anyway.
Okay, our recruitment resources. We have the greatest recruitment resource there is through the College of Southern Maryland. I'm going to just keep touting that because of how the emphasis they place on our program. They treat this program as a regular college program, and it is, and they really place emphasis on that. So all our email blasts, all our social media things that go out, the college pretty much does that for us. But we do rely on things like the GED Manager, Maryland Out Pathways, the Judas Center, Housing Authority. We go through all the entities. We also, Monica and I have participated in different community service events, and we're out there as well passing on information. So we incorporate everything we can in trying to recruit the students. And the greatest form is word of mouth, especially in our ESL population. Once they get started, we get the calls from them, and we make sure that we follow up with them immediately.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we just wanted to share with you just a couple of our forms that we use, just as, if it's helpful to you, great. You want to reach out to us, that's fine. So we send out a remote testing capability questionnaire, and the questionnaire is for those who say, I want to take a remote test. So we need to make sure that they understand what that means. and that they understand they need to be in a room by themselves with no interruptions. We still, and it's not perfect. We still have to kind of go back to students sometimes and say, it looks like you're in a busy part of your house. We're going to have you move to a different location so that you can comply with what we need to comply with for testing. We also need to find out what kind of device are they using. Because as most of you know who do remote testing, if it's a Mac, you need to do that individually. Chromebook, those who have run into the Chromebook issue, not always the easiest thing to deal with. So a lot of times we treat them like individual tests too, and walk people through how to get their iPad, turn on the guided access and stuff like that. So we need to know that, and make sure that they understand what kind of equipment that they need, and that they'll be able to install Zoom, and that they know how much time it could possibly take. Some of our students want to split up their testing time, but a good portion of them say, I just want to do it one shot, get it done. So that's their choice. And then we have them submit that form. A next form we have in-person testing form. So if a person comes through and they want to do in-person testing, we want to make sure that they understand exactly what that means. What it means if they're doing ESL, that they need to bring in, their ID and stuff. They don't need to bring a lot of stuff. That they can't bring in people who aren't scheduled to be there. Or most recently, I've had a few students who have brought in extra friend or someone, and this form is printed out and no one gets into the room unless they have answered these questions and I know what their situation is. So we have to be very particular. We have a few questions here that we added about COVID. There's one, I think we're gonna add another question down there just to make sure that they can say no, that they don't have any of those. And then we ask them to submit that form. We put LACES as well. And I wanted to kind of show you that we can enable immersive reader here. And so each section will allow us to open that up. And then we can choose what language we want to use. And if we want to do it by document. And then it'll read it off.
Uno, fecha diagonal, fecha de admisión de hoy asterisco. Fin de la pregunta.
All right, so that's a nice little feature that we have so that nobody is left out of being able to complete this information. All right. Yeah, see that, yeah, someone was talking about how folks outside of Maryland, yeah, this is our database information, yeah. All right, and then we also offer the permission for release so that we get an idea and can explain to students. If there's someone, whoever you would allow us to be able to communicate with, please let us know. And there's been times during the enrollment process that we absolutely have needed to have this information. So it's good to have that available. Okay.
Well, before we thank you for joining us, I want you to know that that process is evolving. Monica and I are always looking at ways to tweak it. We always try to find ways to make the process smoother for the students and staff. So it is, as you all know, I'm talking to an audience that knows, is evolving. And after getting feedback from you guys, we will do some more tweaking.
All right, well, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for the questions and the comments. If you want to reach out to us for any reason, our emails are there on the screen. And we just appreciate you being here.
And we appreciate the comments that you guys are putting there. Thank you. But we all do this. We all work hard and we all have some things that we can share. We just we just was asked to share, and we're more than happy to share now at any time. If you have any questions, call on us, email us, we will respond. Thank you guys so much. And I see a lot of my colleagues up here, nice seeing you guys, and we hope everyone is safe. Yes,
thank you so much, Monica and Frazer. This has been wonderfully informative. You know, I always appreciate everyone's candor to share. You know, it has been challenging, but here's what we're doing to achieve our successes. And it's apparent that not only are you well supported by your institution, but you have each other, which is great. If everyone can take a moment, I'm going to put a link in the chat box to our feedback form. The only way that we can grow is if we know. So if you give us, you know, your honest feedback, the survey is anonymous. We will continue to offer sessions at the Virtual Training Institute that best fit the needs of you all, adult education stakeholders throughout the state and elsewhere. Additionally, all of our content and recordings will be on the website. Don't quote me on this, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'll do it, but we know we do have some holiday breaks coming up here really soon. So I'm hoping to have it up there by January 1st. And that will include a copy of this presentation. So if there was something particularly interesting, or if you wanted to check out Monica and Frazer's forms, you know, they're more than happy to share their content with you as well. We look forward to seeing you guys at future virtual training institutes, and I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Gina.
All right, thank you, Gina. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everyone.